If you were handed access to an H100 or H200 today, would you know the exact steps to go from a fresh machine to a fast, stable training run? In this module, we'll build that end-to-end workflow together, focusing on what actually matters in practice. 3 hardware pillars really drive deep learning performance on modern accelerators. First is core compute. Tensor or matrix units that crunch FP8, FP16, BF16, or FP32 operations at massive throughput. This determines how many training steps you can complete per second. Second is memory capacity and bandwidth. High bandwidth memory keeps those compute units fed, especially for large batches and long sequences. Third is interconnects. NVLink, NVS switch, TPU interconnects, or Ascend fabrics determine how efficiently you can scale across multiple devices. You can think of your NVIDIA environment as a dependency ladder. At the bottom is the H100 or H200 hardware. Above that sit the host OS and the NVIDIA driver, then the CUDA toolkit, and finally your framework like PyTorch or TensorFlow. Each layer expects very specific versions beneath it. Before training, always check the official compatibility matrix and compare it with NVIDIA Semi and NVZC version. Even small mismatches can cause instability or silent, but massive performance loss. When you start working with H100 or H200, your first big setup choice is containers versus native installs. Using NVIDIA NGC containers is usually the smoothest path. CUDA, cuDNN, and the framework are already tuned and tested together, so you mostly just pull an image and run with Docker run GPUs all. That minimizes it works on my machine problems. Installing framework wheels natively gives more customization, but now every CUDA, driver, and framework version must match exactly, which adds ongoing maintenance overhead. Before you trust any H100 or H200 box, run a quick pre-flight check. Start by confirming the OS actually sees the GPU with NVIDIA Semi. If it doesn't show up here, nothing else will work. Next, verify your framework sees the device. Torch, CUDA.is available in PyTorch, or list physical devices, GPU, in TensorFlow. Finally, run a tiny matrix multiply benchmark. You're just checking that it finishes, is reasonably fast, and doesn't crash. Once the system looks healthy, establish a clean performance baseline. First, pick your device, for example in PyTorch. Device equals CUDA, or CUDA, 0. Then move both the model and all input tensors to that device using W2 device A. Now run a few full training steps and measure throughput in samples per second. In parallel, watch GPU utilization with a tool like Watch N1 NVIDIA SMI, so you know how busy the accelerator actually is. With a baseline in place, the next lever is mixed precision. This means doing most work in lower precision like FP16 or BF16, while keeping critical parts in FP32. By shrinking activations and weights, you nearly halve memory use and unlock many more flops on tensor cores. That usually gives you faster training and room for larger batch sizes or bigger models. To protect accuracy, accumulations such as matrix multiply results still happen in FP32, so you get most of the speed benefits without noticeably hurting model quality. In PyTorch, automatic mixed precision really has two main components. The first is the autocast region. During the forward pass, PyTorch automatically runs safe operations in BF16 or FP16 and keeps numerically sensitive ops in FP32. That's where most of the speed up on H100 or H200 tensor cores comes from. The second is gradient scaling. You wrap the loss with a grad scaler before backwards, so tiny gradients don't underflow in low precision. A helpful tweak is setting torch.set _float 32_matmul precision high when you need better matmul accuracy. In TensorFlow, using mixed precision is mostly a one-line change. You set the global policy to mixed_float 16 on NVIDIA GPUs or mixed_speedfloat 16 on TPUs and Ascend devices. After that, Keras layers automatically run most math in low precision, while variables stay in FP32 for stability. You also don't manually manage loss scaling. The API handles it for you. So a single configuration change can unlock major speedups. To actually hit H100 tensor cores, your high-level layers must compile down to matrix multiplies or convolutions in low precision. When n-linear convolutions or attention projections run in FP16, BF16, or FP8, the framework routes them onto tensor cores and you get the big throughput gain. The main trap is unnecessary casting back to FP32 inside your hot path. Keep the math in mixed precision end-to-end and only convert to FP32 at the boundaries where you truly need it. Once mixed precision is running, profiling tells you whether your GPU is truly busy or just waiting on the CPU or data transfers. Timeline traces often reveal gaps where either the CPU or GPU is idle. Your goal is to shrink those gaps, or better yet, overlap compute with data movement. Use framework profilers like Torch.Profiler or TensorBoard for a quick view, and night systems when you need detailed CPU, GPU timelines. Profile short runs, maybe 100 iterations, to rapidly spot and fix inefficiencies. When your model feels slow, treat it like debugging a system. Match the symptom to the fix. If your CPU is pegged but the GPU is idle, your input pipeline is starving the accelerator. Add more data loader workers or parallel calls. If data loader steps themselves are long, storage is the bottleneck. Move datasets to fast NVMe and enable prefetch. If you see gaps between GPU kernels, transfers are too slow. Pin host memory and enable caching where possible to smooth those stalls. Think of H100 and H200 performance as a flywheel you keep spinning, not a box you check once. First, confirm your environment is healthy and your model trains correctly. Then capture a clean baseline so you know what normal looks like. Next, enable mixed precision or AMP to light up tensor cores. After that, profile to see where time and memory are really going, fix the bottlenecks you find, and loop back. Measure, adjust, and repeat throughout the project. You now have the foundations to use H100 class GPUs effectively: environment setup, mixed precision, and basic profiling. From here, focus on three things: tune batch size and learning rate, scale out with multi-GPU distributed training, and gradually adopt advanced features like CUDA graphs and new precision formats, while rigorously documenting your environments.